Hey, over the next couple of weeks, I want to dive deeper into some hormone topics that I get a lot of questions about. So when I do kind of the shorter videos, people are always asking like, well, how do you fix it? Where do I go from here? So I'm going to take some time and dive into different situations and teach you guys some really practical things you can start doing to balance your hormones. So today we are going to cover PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is becoming incredibly common, right? So many women come to me with this as a primary complaint, and then all of the things that go along with it, right? Losing hair on the head, growing hair on the face, inability to lose weight, painful periods, all of those things that go along with PCOS. But at the root, there are three really typical things that cause PCOS. So let's just kind of recap really quickly what PCOS is. It is the formation of cysts on the ovaries, and typically there's multiple of them that can create a lot of other inflammation, imbalance, pain. But just like anything else, the actual cyst formation, the development of PCOS is the symptom, not the cause, right? So our question has to be, what is creating my body to have these imbalances and form those cysts, right? So that's what I want to teach you today, is there's three typical causes of that. And truly every woman who comes to me, I can have 15 women, right? I say this all the time, 15 women with PCOS, and there's probably 15 different reasons, right? Why each of those women have developed that issue. So figuring out specifically for you what your main cause or cause is, right? There's usually more than one, is so important if you really want help. If you really want to heal, you've got to figure out what's causing this. And number one is a hormone imbalance, but that can come in so many different forms. If you look up hormone imbalance and PCOS, the number one thing that's going to come up on a Google search, you know, as accurate as that is high androgens or high testosterone, right? Testosterone is an androgen. So the number one typical cause is high testosterone. And although that's true, and I do see that a lot, it is certainly not the only hormone imbalance that can create this issue. And I'm actually seeing more and more that it's just one piece of a trifecta, right? Three different things going on when it comes to hormones. So high testosterone is one of them, and things you can do to help if you know you have high testosterone as a woman or high androgens, which there's different types of testosterone. The most important thing you can start doing is making sure your liver is working really well, because your liver processes out that testosterone. So something as simple as adding like some dandelion root tea, or I really love glutathione. If you have some abnormally high hormones of any type, glutathione is a great natural detoxer. Those are things you can start adding to help. But certainly just adding those two things is not going to fix the whole problem. But really, especially with the androgens, it's making sure the liver is working, calming down inflammation. So we'll talk about ways to do that when we get through the top causes. And then also some insulin resistance, right? Some blood sugar or some underlying metabolic issues can create high testosterone. So really making sure you're taking good care of your blood sugars. You're reducing the intake of processed sugar, right? So you're going to really want to watch how much sugar you're putting into your body, because that's going to make testosterone worse if you already have a problem in that area. And then you're also going to want to make sure that you're eating things that help balance your blood sugar. So making sure there's fiber and protein in all of your meals. And you can even add something like a berberine or inositol. Those are two different supplements that are really great at helping you metabolize and balance your blood sugars and are generally safe for people to take. So adding that with meals will help not have those big spikes and can just in general calm down some of that testosterone. So if you know already through blood work that testosterone is one of your culprits, then really supporting the liver, calming inflammation, and making sure you're supporting your blood sugars and your metabolic function is going to help with that piece specifically. So testosterone is one part of the hormone puzzle, but typically what I will see, because testosterone is actually the direct precursor to estrogen. So testosterone makes estrogen, physically creates estrogen in your body. So most women, when they have high testosterone, they also have estrogen dominance. And those symptoms can really mimic each other, right? It's the bloating, it's the puffiness, it's the pain, it's the moodiness. They really both have very similar characteristics because they come from the exact same pathway in your body. So almost always, if a woman has high testosterone, she will typically also have some type of higher or estrogen dominance going on at the same time. Now with estrogen dominance, we know that can become more dangerous, right? Estrogen dominance is linked to things like endometriosis, different types of cancers, abnormal cell growth. So that is absolutely something that we want to make sure that we're taking care of. And the ways that we do that is we make sure your body is properly detoxing those estrogens. So similar to testosterone, you always want to take care of the liver. If you have any type of hormone imbalance, the liver is always going to be somewhere at the root of that, right? Because it processes our hormones. So really making sure you have proper liver function, cleansing the liver, avoiding toxins, right? Trying not to do things that have a bunch of chemicals in your makeup or your household cleaners, avoiding plastics and PUFAs and BPA, all of those things that really gunk up our liver are contributing to how bad our hormone imbalance is. So the more things you can cleanse from your environment, the more able your liver is going to be to detox hormones and all the other things that we need it doing, right? So liver function is so huge. And then with estrogen, there's another piece that's called methylation. Now, this is something that because of sometimes it's a genetic issue, sometimes it's just from environmental things, we get really weak methylation, which is your body's ability to bind and use hormones and vitamins. So you might have heard of MTHFR, that's one piece of that, but just having weak methylation can actually cause a buildup of estrogens. It can cause an inability of your body to detox estrogens, and it also can cause an inability to methylate your B vitamins, which really help with similar symptoms, right? Energy, mood, hair, inflammation. So if you can't detox your estrogens, and for the same reason you can't use any B vitamins, you're going to have a whole lot worse symptoms. So one of the things I really like to do is some really good methylation support, which has to be a good methylated B vitamin, right? A lot of women, I see the suggestions of take B vitamins if you have estrogen issues or if you get cramps or heavy periods, but you have to make sure it is a methyl folate and not folic acid, not the synthetic versions, because your body cannot use those properly, right? I did a video on this, so go back and watch the supplements that are pointless to take. Folic acid is pointless to take because if you already can't methylate, you're certainly not going to be able to use the synthetic version of those vitamins. So if you know, again, you need to know that these things are a problem before you just take a bunch of supplements, right, to try and fix it. But if you know you have some estrogen dominance, adding some methylation support is very helpful. Some good methylated B vitamins. There's also a glutathione pathway, just like with testosterone. Glutathione helps bind and get rid of excess estrogen. So adding some really good high quality glutathione support. NAC, N-acetylcysteine, is getting really popular because it's a precursor to glutathione. It helps your body make more glutathione. So it's actually really great for hormone balance. So that's something that you could add in just to help create some healthy hormone balance. NAC, that's the short version, and that's what most of them will be called, N-acetylcysteine. Those are things that most people can generally add just for good support. But again, it doesn't replace testing and figuring out what's really going on. And then the last one is some type of DIM complex, which is a cruciferous vegetable like broccoli. So one of the reasons why they say broccoli is so helpful and so supportive is because it has this component called DIM, D-I-M, that actually helps bind up and get rid of excess abnormal estrogens. So if you are already aware that your estrogen is a problem and you have estrogen dominance, adding the methylation support, adding some glutathione support, maybe in the form of NAC, and then adding some DIM, some cruciferous support to really help clean out those estrogens are really helpful and really safe. But again, I'm gonna say this probably 100 times, just taking a supplement doesn't fix the problem, right? The supplements are wonderful, herbs are great. I use lots of herbs, I use lots of homeopathics, I use lots of detox support, but finding those root cause issues, right? Is there a stress response? Is there an inflammatory response? Do you have toxins built up in your body? Is there maybe a mold issue? Is there an infection issue? Those are the things that if you want long-term balance in your hormones, you can't just take supplements or a medication, right? A lot of times for PCOS, they'll prescribe things like metformin, which is technically a diabetes medication, but they use it because it's been shown helpful in some cases of PCOS, but even that long-term doesn't fix anything if you don't figure out why your body was creating that inflammation in the first place. That is how you get long-term healing. The things I'm suggesting today are just helping you minimize symptoms, support function to buy you some time to really find your root cause answers, right? So just those supplements alone are not going to fix it all. So don't message me like, hey, I tried them, but I still have PCOS. Great. Did you do the testing? Did you find your root cause? Have you worked on the stress piece? Have you worked on both the physical, which is the imbalances, the infection, the inflammation, and the emotional, right? Which is stress, which is mindset, which is trauma that maybe you haven't healed in your life. These are all the things that so rarely do you put both of those pieces together, right? I know a lot of people who do a ton of mindset coaching and they have great coaches and they're doing all this emotional work and they're doing all this trauma healing, and I love it. But they're not testing their pathways. They're not testing their hormones. They don't know what their adrenals look like. They don't know if they have infections. So you get, these really cool breakthroughs and you think you're making progress, and then you hit a plateau or stuff comes back again because you missed the other side. And then I also know people on the other side, right? They take all the supplements, they eat flawless, they exercise all the time. They feel like they're doing everything right from a health perspective, but can't get that breakthrough. And it's because they're constantly stressed out. They have a bunch of crap they've never healed from. They have all of this trauma and unforgiveness and a very, I call it a dysregulated nervous system response. Literally, your nervous system is constantly your fight or flight. It doesn't matter what supplements you take. It doesn't matter how well you eat if your body is constantly in a state of stress. So if you really want answers, especially to something like a hormone imbalance that creates PCOS, it takes addressing both the physical and the emotional root causes if you actually want the long-term breakthrough, right? There's tons of stuff I could give you, anyone else could give you, that can give you short-term relief. I can make you feel great for 90 days, right? There's a bunch of stuff I could give you. There's a nutrition plan I could put you on. You'll feel amazing for 90 days. But then as soon as you stop those things, if everything comes right back, did we really fix the issue? Same goes for a medication. Let's say blood pressure, for example. If you're on a blood pressure medication and your blood pressure is normal, but you stop your blood pressure medication and your blood pressure spikes all the way back up, was that medication fixing your blood pressure? No, right? Because if it was fixing it, it shouldn't come back. So the whole premise in holistic healthcare is if you're actually correcting the root causes, you shouldn't have to take the same supplements. You shouldn't have to take the same herbs. You shouldn't have to always take the same medications if you're truly correcting the underlying cause. So for PCOS, it is absolutely a hormone issue, but we also have that metabolic piece. What do your blood sugars look like? What's your fasting insulin look like? Are you consuming too many carbohydrates? Are you not processing them, right? Maybe you have weak pancreatic enzymes. Maybe something like your amylase or your lipase is deficient, so you're not able to regulate your metabolic function like you're supposed to. Those are all things that contribute to PCOS. And then inflammation, right? We talk so much about inflammation. Are you constantly inflamed, creating a sluggish liver, creating those other issues? No matter what you do for your hormones, if you're living in inflammation, we're not going to be able to balance your hormones, right? I can give you all the hormone supplements in the world, the best ones, the ones that work really, really well. But if you are constantly giving yourself inflammation in the form of toxins, in the form of alcohol, in the form of crappy food, in the form of an environment that has, mold or things in the air, you can't out-herb an environment that's unhealthy. I want to say that again. This is really important. You can't over-supplement. You can't over-medicate an environment that is unhealthy. So the way you actually heal, true preventative, holistic healthcare, is change the internal environment, both physically and emotionally, and then your body will find homeostasis and be able to heal, right? The number one question I get is, what can I take, right? Oh, I want to do things more naturally. Tell me what vitamin, what supplement, what herb can I take to fix my PCOS? It's not that easy. And anyone who tells you it is lying to you, right? Because there is not one magic fix. There are great things that can help, like I've mentioned today, but none of those are the fix. The only fix is fix the internal environment, right? Fix the inflammation, fix the metabolic issues, fix the hormone imbalance, support the adrenals, Fix the trauma, balance your brain function. That's something I feel like I do very differently than most holistic doctors, is we actually take you through brain balancing, nervous system rewiring, really getting your body out of fight or flight and allowing it to enter a situation where it can actually heal is so incredibly important. But it's got to be both pieces at the same time. Physical and emotional together is where you are finally going to get that breakthrough, that aha moment that you've been trying so hard for that hasn't happened yet. And with PCOS, I will tell you, the emotional part for women is huge. Usually, and maybe this is you, and if it is, send me a message, send me a comment. We can talk through some of this. Maybe there's trauma. Maybe there's past abuse. Maybe there's physical, sexual, verbal abuse. A hormone imbalance for a woman almost always has some type of root in trauma and abuse. And it doesn't even have to be the big crazy stuff, right? Some people have very traumatic stories. Maybe yours is just some guilt or shame around decisions you've made or things you've done in your past. We hold that as a woman in our uterus and in our ovaries. That if you're really struggling with hormone imbalance, PCOS, endometriosis, infertility, yes, guaranteed we're going to find some physical things, imbalances, pathways, hormone issues that we can work on. But if you haven't addressed the emotional traumatic side of that, that's where your biggest breakthrough is going to come through. So don't forget that piece of the puzzle. It's so important, especially for hormone, reproductive, ovaries and uterus for a woman. That is where we hold all of our emotions. Processing that and releasing that is going to really help your healing process. So let's recap. I know that was a lot in a short amount of time, but PCOS typically has a metabolic underlying cause, which is some insulin resistance, blood sugar issues. There's definitely a hormone imbalance, but it's not always just testosterone. There's likely some estrogen pieces of the puzzle. The way we can approach that is by making sure the liver is working really well. Something as simple as adding some dandelion root tea, or maybe you want to add some glutathione. Those are things that are great to help liver function. And then making sure you're addressing also the estrogen dominance piece if that is relevant for you. Things like methylation support, you can also add glutathione, or some DIM or NAC are great for that side of the pathway. Inflammation, easiest thing for inflammation, start by fixing your food. If you have not gone gluten-free and given up cow's dairy, that's your first place to start, right? We can go a lot deeper than that. I have lots of different meal plans and nutrition plans that I work with people on, but the simplest one, if you have inflammatory issues and you're still eating gluten and you're still consuming cow's dairy, cut those two things out and see what an amazing difference that alone can make as far as inflammation goes. And then making sure that you are addressing your internal environment, both physically and emotionally. Doing one without the other is going to land you with plateaus, some frustration, not being able to get that long-term, long-lasting result. So make sure you're dealing with both of those pieces of the puzzle, especially when it comes to PCOS, endometriosis, and infertility. They're just as much physical as they are emotional, and we can work through both of those pieces at the same time. So I hope that helped you guys. Some really simple tips. If you are struggling with PCOS, if you have any of the other issues I've mentioned today and you want more help, you want more information, or you have specific questions, please just shoot me a message or leave a comment. We have plenty of ways to connect to make sure that you're getting your individual answers to really start getting you that breakthrough through holistic healthcare. So thanks for watching. Next week, I'm going to talk a lot more about endometriosis, and then we're going to get into infertility. So we have lots of really fun stuff coming up over the next couple of weeks.